Happenings podcast is brought to you by Sustainable HR PEO and Colath CPA, a local professional service firm supporting Madison businesses and nonprofits just like DMI with their various back of office needs. The firm aims to provide high quality professional services and be true business partners to small and mid-market employers. If you're interested in accounting, tax advisory, HR, payroll, and benefits administration, Sustainable HR PEO and Colath are local providers who are committed to serving Madison and the downtown community. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Downtown Madison Happenings podcast. I'm Jason Elstrup, president of Downtown Madison Inc., where we talk about all things important to downtown, and we have a very important discussion today on mental health. And we are welcoming two outstanding community leaders with us today. Julia Stanley, Manager of Outreach for School and Community at Journey Mental Health, and Katie Boyce, Exact Sciences' Senior Director of Corporate Impact and Community Relations. Julia, Katie, how are you both doing today?
Great. Good to see you. Thanks for having us.
Happy Mental Health Awareness Month.
Absolutely. This is a huge
day.
Yes, day one. Well, now everyone knows when we recorded this. May 1st. Happy May 1st. We are very obviously excited to celebrate, but learn more about mental health and certainly the challenges and how we can all move forward. Would love to hear from you, Julia, about the resources and what happens at Journey Mental Health and what communities and how you serve communities here in Dane County.
Yes, thanks so much. So I am part of the school-based mental health team at Journey. We are one arm of many. So obviously Journey has a vital and vibrant emergency services unit. We do outpatient services, community services, but our school-based team works with 7 districts across Dane County. We do universal screening for depression, traumatic stress, and suicidal ideation with middle and high schoolers. This is critical so we can learn who needs services, and then Journey helps facilitate those services via groups in schools with our community mental health partners.
Certainly this is a very important program for our community. How are schools and families and students responding to having these mental health services embedded in the school environment?
They're very receptive. I think the school staff especially appreciates a universal screening. It's really hard to tell with 6th and 9th graders who might be struggling, who might need additional services. So having the screener embedded as a universal tier 1 is what school staff refer to it as. So it touches every student. So we're able to see who's suffering from trauma, who's holding on by a thread that you might not know. Who might have suicidal ideation. We get stories every year of school staff saying, I had no idea that this student was really struggling. And, thank you for helping point this out and really connect with the family and get services for these students. So we have great success with that. We work very hard to get students who need services into our programs, into our groups. So we always are, reaching out to families to explain the benefits and have them understand that this is easy. It's in schools. There's no insurance needed. Access is simple. It's where your kids are every day. So that's a key part of school-based mental health.
It's amazing to have that access right in the schools. As you start building this program, what are you seeing as the challenges for both sustaining and expanding the program so that we can get into more kids, into more schools, so we can help as many people as possible?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one thing we see is, lack of funding, and we talk about this a lot. State funding has gone down for school-based mental health and youth mental health in general. So we, always want to sustain that and increase the level of funding available in schools for that. I think another issue that we see is just having enough staff to provide this. School staff is stretched thin with emergency response and testing and that kind of thing. So it's helpful to bring in, community therapists to the school. We are continually asked for therapists who speak Spanish and also who look like the students we're serving. And so, there are an awful lot of practitioners who look like me. And so we're always thinking about the pathway to develop a diverse group of clinicians who can serve a wider breadth of students.
And one thing I know, always looking for resources, but you have amazing champions in corporate support, in particular from Exact Sciences. And we're so excited to have Katie here with us. Katie, Exact Sciences played a significant role in supporting youth and family mental health for years. Can you share more about this partnership and how did it start?
Well, it started because Julia and I have really good open conversations about lots of the needs of the community and have for many years. So Julia is really a true asset to this work, in addition to Journey but Exact Sciences really looks at our community support, both financially and with our volunteer time off and with our abilities to tell stories together. We really look at how are we going to help keep our communities strong. And when we want to keep a community strong, we look at all of the things we need in order for that to be there. Good schools, good healthcare system, good transportation, good childcare, et cetera. And it's not our job at Exact Sciences to make those things happen. It's our job to make sure that they're still here. So when we talk about mental health, that's just as important as that's part of the healthcare system. That's part of the school system. So we want to make sure that we're not delineating it separately, that if this is a service that the schools need, which we see very much from our employees, their children, they need these services. So if we're committed to keeping our community strong, we have to walk the walk with that and make sure that if there's vulnerability, from a funding perspective or from a volunteer perspective, or being able to tell stories like we are in the format we're in today, we want to be there to be supportive. And we rely on Julia and the team at Journey and the team at other organizations to be able to do the work. We just want to be there to be their supporter and ensure that they're there for the long run.
Well, Katie, I just say thank you. I mean, on behalf of Journey, but also on behalf of DMI, you are champions of downtown as well. And you truly are community partners. And it makes all the difference in the world when we have organizations, for-profit, nonprofits, all working together to help our community. Julia, quickly, why is having corporate support like Exact Sciences and other corporations so important to the work that you're doing, particularly in the school-based program?
Yeah, and I will say thank you to Katie and Exact Sciences as well, because that partnership is really vital. As I said, state funding has gone down for mental health services, and so we're really trying to diversify our funding streams, basically, to continue this work and keep it vital and vibrant. We partner with school districts. We don't take insurance. These students don't become consumers or clients of Journeys. We provide this service and the school pays for it. So as that funding is scrunched, it's nice to have other resources in the community who also value this work, such as Exact and other partners. So philanthropic and corporate dollars are vital to this work.
Now, Julia, it's a question I'm interested in is what are the trends you're seeing in sort of mental health right now and youth mental health in particular, really looking at it when it comes to post-pandemic. I mean, this was such a difficult time for so many, but particularly for students and young people around our community.
Yeah, so we have seen the trends in mental health, sort of the scary point we were at in 21 or so. Those have gone down. So in our screening, we have seen a drop in students who screen positive for depression, suicidal ideation, or traumatic stress. And so we are seeing that trend has gone down a little bit. About 37% of students screen positive for those things this year. And this is not a diagnosis. It's just that they are self-reported clinically significant symptoms. So 37% is still really high. A third of kids report that they are having these things. And I will note that depression often goes with traumatic stress. I think that was a surprise to me when I started this work, that I thought, all kids were depressed, and a lot of kids are depressed because of a traumatic event. And so we also look at the Dane County Youth Assessment. And the 2024 Youth Assessment just obviously came out last year. And depression is up a little, but suicidal ideation has declined since the pandemic. Anxiety has declined a little bit as well. So, I think we're seeing that kids are feeling, anxious and isolated as well. That has gone up a lot. We talk a lot about sort of building community and feel that when kids are noticed and plugged into their school or activities, their mental health improves. So that's part of our programming as well as, forming these groups where kids can share their experiences together with other students who have gone through similar experiences. So I think the isolation piece, especially post-pandemic, is something we really need to continue to work on in our efforts with kids.
Well, Julie, I'm also thankful you brought up trauma, right? It is such an important part of what's happening with particularly youth mental health. My wife, works in the sexual violence space and the trauma that often can be inflicted onto kids and the repercussions of that for years to come. So we're so thankful for groups like Journey that are able to make this happen. I'm hoping that we're seeing a shift in people's understanding of mental health, right? I would love to hear from both of you, how are we sort of seeing those shifts as to more people sort of focusing on mental health at Journey, but also on the corporate side of things. This is, Katie, you see this all the time. You get asked by a lot of people to do a lot of things, but this is one of your priorities. Why is it a priority? And are we seeing more people aware of what's going on? And is that helpful for us sort of working through this for our community?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the number one thing we have to do is completely normalize this the same way we would if an employee or someone in their family were diagnosed with cancer or were in a car accident. This is we can't separate the two. And so what's important to us is obviously, I talked a little bit about our strong communities, but we also really care about our employees. And if our employees are dealing with a mental health crisis, either for themselves or with their child, that's dramatically affects their productivity, as it should. So if we don't have an accessible system where someone can quickly and easily get the help that their child needs, either through the school or through another healthcare system, that's a big problem for us, because that parent's going to need to take significant time off to support them. And if they feel like they can't, then what are they leaving at home and they're worried about? So in order to support our employees, we all need to ensure that this system is as strong and accessible as possible, because it has to be seen the exact same as if someone came and said their child had cancer, because it is as critical as that. And we just need to continue to talk to ourselves, our employees, and everybody out there about how this is equally as important as any other health issue.
What changes would we like to see? I mean, if we could have an ideal outcome, right? Maybe for both of you, what changes would we like to see? Normalization, obviously, getting more resources. What does the ideal system look like so that we can wrap the support services around these folks and make sure that youth are taken care of and that we are combating this, you said 37%, right? I mean, that is 1/3 of all kids. So what does the ideal system look like, and what does the community need to do to invest?
Yeah, so my ideal system, I think, involves, youth have your sort of question about, stigma, and I think TikTok and has gone a long way in educating youth on mental health. They have a lot of different words and a lot more sophisticated language around their mental health. But I still think when it comes down to joining a group in their school, there's still a little bit of a hesitation, right? I don't want to share my stuff with people at school. I don't want people to know. And I think if we could get over that hump and have family and caregiver support along that as well, and really have sort of wraparound family mental health, right? It's sort of as Katie's saying, the employee who's worried about their kid, if we could sort of bring everybody along in a family system, I think that would go a long way in helping improve the mental health and feelings of community, right? And lack of isolation that we're seeing. And that's a big lift, right? It's having parents, have flexibility in their schedules and all of that. So I think in an ideal world, that would just all be part and parcel of how we treat mental health really holistically.
Second to last question for you all is, how can DMI members participate and be part of the solutions to get more resources or whatever it looks like for you. I know there's an opportunity on your youth mental health luncheon on May 9th. We would love to have people attend. But what other ways that our members can get involved?
I'm just going to say one thing from a corporate perspective. I think as a business, and DMI has business members, it's really important to acknowledge that people do have mental health issues. People do have mental health issues within their business. Downtown, there are people that we see every day that have mental health issues, and we need to be very open about the fact that that doesn't mean danger. That means that someone's struggling with a mental health issue. So I think that's another part of removing some of the stigma around mental health versus physical health, which I think is, a long way to go. And then long range planning outside of anybody on this call's abilities, but how mental health is paid for very differently than physical health. And if we're going, insurance coverage, etc. So if we're going to truly put them on the same level as they're equitable and they need to be looked at the same, then organizations like Journey doesn't need to decide if they're going to take insurance or not. They're going to just have a lot of different payment options that allow for more accessibility along the road. Again, not going to solve it today, probably not going to solve it in the immediate future. But as businesses, we might be able to hold our insurers, and at least be able to ask the question about mental health services.
Last question is, what gives you hope right now for the issue of youth mental health in our community?
I like that question. I think.
Well, thank you.
I think even just this podcast, right? That DMI finds that this is an important topic to talk about. I think that is hopeful. I think seeing that there is an urgency around where children are, and that the destigmatization of that. I think that gives me hope. I think also the fact that kids are involved. I think that kids care about each other and about supporting one another in their own mental health and talk about it more than 10 years ago. I think that's hopeful as well.
Katie, what gives you hope?
It gives me hope that I agree with Julia that we're having this discussion as community members, as parents, as just concerned citizens, is great and really a great next step. I'm also and I said I wouldn't name her by name, but I have a teenage daughter, and she and her friends are very open about mental health challenges. They have the words and they do talk about it, which is a completely different feeling than I would have ever had as a 16-year-old. So I am grateful for that. And I think if we're all doing it together, it just continues to improve.
Katie, I think that last point is great. I mean, you and I are relatively almost exactly the same age, and these just wasn't discussed when we were in school, and the issues were certainly there. There's no question, right? And now that it's open and out, that can only provide hope for all of us in the community. So I just want to say a huge thank you to both Julia and Katie here. But now I want to get to know them better, because I know them both very well, and I hope the rest of the community does too, because these are two of the coolest people in Madison. So we're going to ask them 5 questions. This is called the Fast and Furious 5. We're going to ask you top of the mind answered questions about downtown. Does that work for you, Julia? Does that work for you, Katie?
Absolutely. I'm in.
All right. What's your favorite restaurant downtown?
Oh, I always go to Sardine.
I'm going to say Tempest.
2 good answers, only
Right.
a block apart. I will say my wedding reception was at Sardine, so no offense, Katie, but I have a soft spot. All right.
I mean, I like Sardine. No.
Who doesn't love Sardine? Thank you, John. Thank you, Philip. You guys are the best. What is your favorite Babcock ice cream flavor?
Anything with chocolate and peanut butter.
Oh, no. Orange chocolate chip.
Wow.
Go to.
I like that she was offended, Katie, by your...
I mean,
she got the chocolate part.
No, anything with chocolate and peanut butter anywhere, but so specifically though at Babcock, that's great.
Well, you must be a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup fan.
Love it.
Now, I got a side question for you. You know, a friend of mine told me, a good friend of mine, she calls it factory fresh Reese's peanut butter cups. She likes the seasonal ones that are like the holiday Christmas trees
Yes.
or the eggs because they're more fresh. They were just produced.
I think that's very wise. I agree with her. I also find this holiday Reese's peanut butter cups to be better because they don't have that hard ridge around the outside. So if it's just an egg shape or just a Christmas tree, it's just the right amount.
Well, she also thinks, and we'll just give her credit. Amber Evenson, amazing. She works in child sleep therapy. So if you need anyone on child sleep, as a father of a 2-year-old who's currently single parenting this end of this week, I might need to call her. She also thinks that the peanut butter to chocolate ratio is different.
She's
So
absolutely
it's little less chocolate. Yeah, Amber is, I mean, she's got a PhD. She's super
No,
smart.
This
This
she's
could be
She's
a
going to
PhD
absolutely kill me
study,
for talking about
actually.
this.
and yes, she's absolutely right. And I'm really glad that she's thought through all these things.
Now I'm so curious.
I know. See that? Yes. We'll put that as one of your questions. All right. The next question is, what's your favorite festival downtown?
That's a good one. I went to Eakin Park Fest last year. Didn't know about it. So fun. Great bands.
Yes.
Great
Well, you
food.
know, us West Siders, we barely get to the East Side.
I
We
know.
do love
It was a whole nother world for me. Took me
yes.
20 years to get there. It was great.
Katie, what's yours?
To admit, it's been a long time since I've been at a downtown festival. So I don't think I can choose a favorite because I think that would just be making it up.
Can I just
So-
invite you to like concerts on the square or like the
You're,
farmers
you're
market?
welcome to. You're welcome
Okay.
to invite me
I
to
was
any
just
of
going to
those
say, I
things.
think we
It's-
all need to do that this summer.
And it's not because I don't like them. It's just, so I'm going to say, and this may not count, but any home football Saturday is my favorite festival.
Oh, that counts. That of
Okay,
course
great.
that counts.
Okay,
Yeah,
great. Because I
absolutely.
mean, festival, I was thinking like Summerfest festivals in Milwaukee is
Oh.
throwing me off.
No.
So
No.
I will just choose downtown for a Badger football Saturday.
I love it. All right, last question. You've got out-of-towners coming for the weekend. What does a special day in downtown look like to take those folks around?
Start at the Union, because that's really great. The Union's a great spot. Summer, winter, always good. And then, meander down State Street. And hopefully, if it's close enough to dinner time, be able to share the joys of the Tornado Room for dinner, because it really is a special spot. But hopefully that doesn't take all day. But you could stop at a few spots and it might.
Very
and
long
it might-
stroll up of the 6 blocks
It
of
might
State Street.
take all day, depending which downtown out-of-towner is coming along. So that's excellent.
Absolutely. So I would just throw into that itinerary farmer's market and then drinks at Eno Vino because it's such a spectacular view.
It is. I will say, Vino's great, but there is a new rooftop venue on the top of the Moxie Hotel at
I
Pico.
heard that.
It's also very nice.
Different
Very nice as
vantage
well.
point has its
True.
perks.
And Exact Sciences and us did do a video on this a couple of years ago, but one of my favorite spots, if you want to get up and sort of see the city, is the rotunda at the Capitol. You can go up on the 6th floor, 360-degree views, really see the isthmus. But I'm now answering my own question, which is what you're not supposed to do as a podcast host. So there you go. Well, thank you very much, Julia Stanley, the School and Community Outreach Manager for Journey Mental Health, and Katie Boyce, Senior Director of Corporate Impact and Community Relations at Exact Sciences. We cannot thank you enough for all you do for our community, particularly for youth mental health. Thank you. We
Thank you.
appreciate
And
it.
Jason, can I do a quick shout out for our May
Absolutely.
mental health awareness event? So Journey is putting together a whole slew of events this month, everything from drag bingo, if that's your thing, at Delta Beer Lab, to our school-based mental health CEs. You can get credit for coming and hearing, learning more about suicidal ideation, and a luncheon with a host of community therapists and clinicians and statisticians to talk about trends in children's mental health and what we're seeing. That is May 9th, the school event, and you can check out the Journey website for our other events. But, and we're having an event down at Cooper's Tavern with Monty Ball talking about his mental health struggles. Kristen Bry is the moderator for that event. So check it out and join us for all of those things. DMI members, that's a way you can get involved. So
I love it.
so
Absolutely.
much.
Get involved. Check out their website. Please do help where you can. Thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And thank you for your support of Downtown. We'll see you sometime soon. Have a great day.